In case you don't recognize it, this right here is the totally revamped Chrysler 200. But beyond dramatic design, there's a lot more to this story, and from bonnet to boot and roof to rockers, this car is literally all new. Now, as you probably know, today's 200 is far from a competitive product. Let's just leave it at that, which means this 2015 model has a whole lot to prove. Now, the Pentastar brand has literally been in park on the sidelines for years. Can it really compete in that fiercely demanding midsize sedan segment? Well, gosh almighty, let's find out. The Chrysler 200 may be imported from Detroit, but we are in the bluegrass state right now. Famous for its horses, bourbon, whiskey, and southern hospitality, Kentucky is also home to undulating hills and meandering back roads that makes it a great place for testing new cars. Oh, and it's also home to Colonel Harland Sanders. Yes, that Colonel Sanders, and I do declare. So what's this shiny new Chrysler got going for it? Well, after perusing its spec sheet, I've got to say, the 2015 200 looks finger-licking good. But first, a few words about design. Now, supposedly it features the new face of Chrysler, though in truth, that squished grille opening and large lower intake kind of remind me of an Asian carp. Also, the general shape of its side glass looks a lot like the daylight opening of a Dodge Dart, which isn't a bad thing. Now, aside from the somewhat odd front end, I think it's a very pretty and upscale looking car, though you do have to see it outside and in the sun to really appreciate it. The car is offered in 4 different flavors: entry-level LX, Limited, which is the volume seller, 200S, and then the range-topping 200C. Now, icing on the cake, a total of 11 herbs and spices, 11 different paint colors are available. As for powertrain, the car is offered in original recipe and extra crispy. The base engine is a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder, and this Tiger Shark Multi-Air 2 unit delivers 184 horsepower and 173 pound-feet of torque. The optional engine is a 3.6-liter V6. Yes, Chrysler still offers a 6-cylinder alternative at a time when many competitors have gone 4-cylinder only. You may have a choice of power plant, but you don't when it comes to transmission. The only one offered is a hyper-advanced 9-speed automatic, the first ever in a mid-size sedan. Now, supposedly it helps deliver up to 35 miles per gallon on the highway with the 4-cylinder engine, and just a few years ago that was subcompact car territory. The V6 is expected to return up to 31 mpg. For customers that live in foul weather markets, Chrysler also offers all-wheel drive, though it's only available with the V6 engine. Now, aside from providing traction at all 4 corners, the rear axle can actually be completely decoupled from the rest of the car's drivetrain, which improves fuel economy, and when extra grip is needed, it seamlessly engages again. Base price for this 2015 200 is $22,695, including $995 in shipping and handling fees, and that's right in line and sometimes even a few dollars less than arch rivals, including the Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, and Ford Fusion. You know, over the years, Chrysler really earned itself a reputation for building vehicles with kind of chintzy interiors, and deservedly so, but thankfully those days are a thing of the past because a lot of the company's new products have really excellent cabins, and this new 200 is no exception. The design, very upscale. The use of materials is very good as well, and the fit and finish, even in this prototype model, is absolutely flawless. Now, another feature about the cabin here is the Uconnect system, familiar infotainment technology that's available in a variety of the company's products, and it's just as good and just as easy to use as ever, but this is the next generation of that, and it gives you a few advantages. You've got 3G connectivity, and you have access to apps, things like Yelp as well as Pandora for streaming music while you're driving. So right here you've got this nifty sliding center console. Up top, 2 large cup holders, and then you hit this button and slide it back. You've got a very deep, very wide bin. You can put all sorts of stuff in there and then close it up tight when you're not in your car. And then right here on the center console is Chrysler's innovative rotary style shifter. It's really easy to use, and it's got a nice knurled texture, so even if your hands are all greasy after eating a bucket of chicken, still easy to change gears. Don't judge me. Now, underneath the shifter and climate control setup, there's another little Easter egg. The company has a separate storage area, and the rubber liner that's under there is actually embossed with the skyline of Detroit. So on the safety front, you've got 8 standard airbags, and in addition to that, the car's structure is something like 60% high-strength steel. So if you do find yourself getting into a crash, you should be very well protected. Now, beyond that stuff, there are also all kinds of advanced driver assistance systems. You can get things like adaptive cruise control, as well as forward collision prevention, and all together, I think the Colonel would really love what's going on in here. So right now I'm behind the wheel of the 200S, which is one step below the 200C, which is supposedly the range-topping version of this car. And the S model is sort of the sporty or sinister-looking version of the 200. And one of the first things you'll notice sliding inside is the steering wheel, and it's very chunky and very thick, and it's nice and meaty to grab a hold of when you're driving this car. It gives it a premium feel. One of the other things you'll notice, if you've spent the extra money for the V6 engine, is just how smooth it is. Engineers have done an absolutely phenomenal job isolating this engine from the rest of the car. And when you nail the throttle, it's just totally smooth. You don't get hardly any vibration through either the floor pan or the seat or the steering wheel. It's superbly done, and this is a better integration of the powertrain, I think, than you'd get in some Acura or even Lexus products. It is really that good. So as I mentioned earlier, 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 under the hood puts out 295 ponies, and let me tell you, it doesn't matter if you're climbing hills and mountains, you're driving on a straightaway, you are not going to be wanting for power. This car is seriously quick, and that new cutting-edge 9-speed transmission really makes the most of what that engine has to offer. Now, there is one thing I noticed using that transmission. That's when you go to change gears from, say, park to reverse. There's a slight delay. It's not terrible, but I think it could be a little bit quicker. Now, this car also offers a sport mode, and that's accessible right down here, again, on the shift knob. What you do, you push it in, you turn it all the way to the right. It lets you know that you've engaged sport mode, and supposedly that tightens up the steering feel a little bit. That also changes the way that transmission responds. Supposedly it shifts a little bit quicker, a little bit firmer. I don't really notice much of a difference. You know, a lot of these systems don't seem to have that big of an impact on the way the car actually performs, and this is unfortunately the same sort of situation. Sure, you can feel it a little bit tighter, but overall it's not that big of a deal. So the 2015 Chrysler 200 really does handle itself quite well out on the road. It may not be best in class in all areas, but it's certainly competent, and I really love that 3.6-liter engine. The all-new 2015 Chrysler 200 is a really well-done mid-size sedan that should compete with its main rivals quite nicely. Now, if your family is in the market for some tasty transportation, I think they're going to gobble up this car like a bucket of popcorn chicken. You can look for it at dealerships in the coming months.